My special guest this evening is Robert Sullivan IV. And Robert Sullivan IV is a philosopher, historian, antiquarian, jurist, mystic, lay theologian, radio TV personality, writer, lawyer, and the best-selling author of the books Royal Arch of Enoch, The Impact of Masonic Ritual, Philosophy and Symbolism, 2012, republished in 2016, and Cinema Symbolism, A Guide to Esoteric Imagery in Popular Movies, and that was in 2014, republished in 2017. His third book, Cinema Symbolism 2, More Esoteric Imagery from Popular Movies, is now live. I'm very excited. We're going to discuss that tonight. Sullivan is writing his first work of fiction and is also working on another book on Masonry titled Freemasonry and the Path to Babylon. That sounds exciting. As well as a work of fiction, A Pact with the Devil. Mr. Sullivan is a Freemason, having joined Amicable-St. John's Lodge number 25, Baltimore, Maryland in 1997. He became a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason in 1999, Valley of Baltimore, Orient of Maryland. A lifelong Marylander, he resides in Baltimore, and his website's robertsullivan4th.com. Please welcome Robert to the show this evening. Good evening, Robert.
Hi, Solaris. Thanks for having me on the witching hour. It is indeed past midnight here in Baltimore, and it's great to be on your show. It's great to be back on Revolution Radio on Studio A, and I'm looking forward to this evening's show. It's great to be back on. Thank you.
Oh, likewise. It's always a pleasure to have you on. You're a wellspring of data, and of course, I'm excited to hear about your new book. It's gone live. We're very excited that it's live, and congratulations. That's Cinema Symbolism 2. So tell me about the book, and when did it go live?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Cinema Symbolism 2 was released about 3.5 weeks ago. It came out. This is the print edition. It came out on April 4th was when it was released this year. It's brand new. The print edition is out. You can get this on Amazon.com. You can get it on Barnes & Noble. You can get it on Books A Million. It's on numerous websites, global websites as well. And international Amazon websites like Amazon UK, Amazon Canada, Amazon Australia, sites such as Booktopia in Australia. You can get it around the globe. It's completely out. It's called Cinema Symbolism 2, and that's the number 2, not TWO. It's or not 2 Roman numerals. It's Cinema Symbolism 2, more esoteric imagery in popular movies. Like I said, it was released on April 4th of this year. It's brand new. The ebooks of it are still probably about 2 to 3 weeks away, probably around mid-May on those. They should be out. But at any rate, the print edition is out. like I said, you can get it on Amazon. There are links to it all over my website, which you pointed out, robertwsullivan.com. Just go to buy Robert's books, or even the there's a link right there on the homepage to buy it. And like I said, that came out about 2 to 3, whatever it was, 3.5 weeks ago now. So yeah, I'm real excited about it. I'm really happy with the way it came out, and it's a whole new slate of movies. I revisit a couple movies, as I promised I would, from Cinema Symbolism. I revisit one from Royal Arch of Enoch, but this is a brand new slate of movies, and really happy with the way it came out. And like I said, I'm real pleased with it.
Right. And you have a wonderful way of writing. I do like your writing technique and style. So I encourage everybody to purchase a copy if they haven't already. And for anybody who loved the first one, Cinema Symbolism, the first one, they're going to love this one, I'm sure, because you go into more detail about different movies, et cetera. And, let me ask you something about the Harry Potter. I think I'd like to kind of dive into that a little bit, if that's okay, and ask what exactly, what do you see with the Harry Potter insofar as the symbolism goes? Right.
Well, there's a lot going on in the whole Harry Potter mythology. This is something I did. This was probably one of the most arduous parts of the book for me. I have a whole chapter on I think it's 8 movies of Harry Potter. There were 7 books, but the last book, The Deathly Hallows, was split into 2 movies, part 1 and part 2. So it's 8 movies. There's a lot going on in those books. Each one of those movies is the monomyth. It's the Joseph Campbell monomyth, which we'll find in Star Wars and movies like Dune and The Matrix and The Lord of the Rings. Each one of those stories contains components of the monomyth, and some of them repeat. I mean, some of them are just the same thing over and over again. So I break each one of the Harry Potter movies down monomythically. And give you the elements, so give you which is what, where this is occurring here. But of course, there's a lot of arcane, mystical symbolisms in Harry Potter as well. With the Albus Dumbledore character being sort of the wizard archetype, the Hermes Trismegistus archetype. This is what I called him in the first book, and it's a description that I really stand by. And again, this archetype is present in movies such as Star Wars, where it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, or in Lord of the Rings, where it's Gandalf the Grey. You have him, and then of course I thought it was real clever that sort of his female equivalent at Hogwarts was is Minerva McGonagall, and of course her first name Minerva is a reference to the female goddess of wisdom. I thought that was very clever. You have in the Harry Potter, if you're a fan of the Star Wars movies, you're going to see a lot of repetition and a lot of similarities in the Harry Potter movies, and in Harry Potter stories in general. I mean, for example, like in Star Wars, in episodes 4, 5, and 6, you have sort of the big three, which is Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Princess Leia. And this, of course, in Harry Potter is Harry Potter, Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. And you have that same sort of dichotomy going on with the hero, and of course Harry Potter himself is this solar hero archetype figure, the boy, the unknown boy who lives under the staircase is plucked to go on this magical adventure, to go to this wizarding world where he ultimately winds up being recruited to defeat this dark evil lord. I mean, where does this sound familiar? With Luke Skywalker being this farmhand, being plucked, from the ranks to go on this magical adventure and defeat this dark evil lord, be it Darth Vader or the Emperor. So you have a lot of comparative storytelling going on with Star Wars and Harry Potter. There's so much. I mean, I would say to you in writing Cinema Symbolism 2, by far and away, the Harry Potter portion of it was by far and away was the most arduous task. I mean, I had to sit there and watch all these 8 movies. And when you get into the middle movies, they almost blend together for me. I still to this day have trouble. When you get past Prisoner of Azkaban, and then you get into the ones like, see, I'm even right now drawing a blank on them. You get up to the last 2 where it's the Half-Blood Prince and then Deathly Hallows. I'm even drawing a blank on the titles of them, those middle movies. Order of the Phoenix is one. When you get into that, that's where they start to blur together with me. I break them all down individually in the book, but no, Harry Potter it's a ton going on in there, and like I said, it's what was one of the really it was the string of movies I really was originally going to include in the first Cinema Symbolism book, but it would have dragged it down substantially. I put it in the Cinema Symbolism 2, and it's all of the movies. I break down every one of them. So it was something I was really pleased with the way it came out. And like I said, if you're interested in Harry Potter, by far and away, check out Cinema Symbolism 2. I mean, I even have Lord Voldemort, Ralph Fiennes there on the cover. So definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Well done, I must say. Yeah, as a Mason, you're able to catch these symbols. It's obvious that we discussed this on Hyperspace a little bit when you were on the show, and I can applaud you for that because you have a natural knack for decoding. But for the average person, they probably wouldn't see or notice some of these symbols, and this is one of the reasons I encourage them to purchase your books, because this will help them understand what's going on.
Well, that's absolutely right. Yeah, I became a Freemason 20 years ago. I can't believe it's been 20 years now. And definitely being a Freemason and being familiar with Masonic symbology and symbolism definitely helped me. I mean, in fact, some of, and I say this in the book, I said, I don't know, J.K. Rowling is not a Freemason, obviously, but I said Freemasonry must have some sort of subconscious effect on her one way or another. You had the whole thing going on, and it's really incredible. With Dumbledore right off the bat with the Philosopher's Stone, and he keeps his treasure in a subterranean vault. In Freemasonry, and this is the whole premise of the first book I wrote, the Royal Arch of Enoch, is the recovery of this treasure in this subterranean vault. And the restoration of this knowledge is coming through a character. One of them is Hermes Trismegistus, who is the wizard. Who is the wizard archetype. And like I said, this is, the Merlin the magician figure. This is the Albus Dumbledore figure. And this is, Gandalf the Grey and Lord of the Rings. Well, it's really interesting. This is the 7th degree in the York Rite of Freemasonry, and it's the 13th degree of all things in the Scottish Rite. And in Harry Potter, I mean, you have Hermes Trismegistus, Albus Dumbledore, having the subterranean vault at Gringotts, where he keeps his treasure. I mean, what's the vault number? I mean, 713 of all things. I mean, that's really incredible to have that number there. I mean, that to me is some sort of subconscious reference that Rowling is using to these 2 high Masonic degrees. I couldn't believe it when I was watching this. I mean, I just thought, my goodness. And then I even liked it in the opening of, I believe it's the 2nd or 3rd Harry Potter movie. It's the second one, I think. it's the Chamber of Secrets. I mean, I thought it's really interesting there. You have this whole thing at the beginning where Harry's with the family. This is the family that he doesn't really get along with. And they're all running around getting the house together because the Masons are coming over, and it's this big meeting that they're having. Now, obviously, the Masons is a reference just to people, their last name, but you have the mother running around in the apron. You have the father saying, this is a really important meeting that's going to have, a great impact on my career. And you just can't help but wonder, it just conjures the whole idea of the Masonic conspiracy and things like that. And like I said, I think this was actually working for Rowling almost on a subconscious level. So, yeah, I mean, being a Freemason and being able to see the symbolism, I mean, and I believe I said this with you the last time I was on your other show was, for me, being a Freemason and reading the books about Masonic symbolism and then having, myself written a book about Masonic symbolism, it almost produced this sort of kind of odd side effect where I could really break down these movies on a really symbolic level, in their proper symbolic context. And hence my book, Cinema Symbolism, and its recent released sequel, Cinema Symbolism 2.
Fantastic too. It's really interesting. You have so many good points about J.K. Rowling because it does make you wonder what is going on with it. Was she channeling? I understood that she was channeling a lot of this data. I could be wrong, but that's what I was under the impression she was doing when she was writing a lot of this stuff. Was just running energy for information. What's interesting is that you're right. She's getting all sorts of hits on Masonic types of information. So it has. I wonder if it does come from maybe her ancestry or her legacy of cellular memory, or very, very interesting.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you 100%, Solaris. I tap into the whole idea of Carl Jung and the collective unconscious, the whole notion of, Masonic ritual, even perhaps coming out of this. I mean, the whole thing of the restoration of treasure in a subterranean vault. This seems to be part of this. You've seen this motif all over the place when you have an eye for it. And she seems to work in really good with Freemasonry. The idea that she was channeling energy, that would not surprise me in the slightest. I know we talked about this, and certainly, I don't want to, get too much into it, but I'm writing a work of fiction right now, A Pact with the Devil. Cinema Symbolism 2 came out. Pact with the Devil is my first work of fiction that I'm actually writing right now. I'm not doing any other books than this. And this entire story came to me in a dream. And when I say a dream, I quite literally mean that. I mean, I wasn't sitting at my desk just thinking things up randomly. I was sound asleep, and I had this very lucid dream, and it seemed to last all night. And it's rare for me because I don't usually dream, or if I do, I don't remember them when I wake up. But anyway, I remembered this one, and just how striking the characters were. I mean, I had names, I had a whole plot, and I immediately woke up and started writing all this down. And I'm actually writing this right now. So, I've been on with other shows, and people say, oh, well, this is, you're channeling information from a higher consciousness. And I really can't disagree with that. I mean, I have no reason to disagree with it. So to say that Rowling is channeling, channeling information or tapping into the collective unconscious, that would not at all surprise me. Like I said, if you, it's the one thing with those books and with those stories is, and it's really interesting to me, is how often and how typical the monomyth repeats in those. I mean, and Campbell argued in his book A Hero with a Thousand Faces that this was part of the collective unconscious. And in each one of those Harry Potter stories is a microcosm, really, of the macrocosm, which is the monomyth, because each one of those Harry Potter stories contains the elements of the monomyth in some form or fashion. And in many cases, they repeat. Now, you don't have all the elements in all the books, of course. Then it would, you can't have the concluding elements in the first book. You wouldn't be able to write a sequel on it, of course. But it's really interesting to me how often those monomythic elements turn up in the Harry Potter movies. Each one of them has, the typical monomythic elements in them. So yeah, with Rowling and Harry Potter, like I said, if you're a Harry Potter fan, definitely check out Cinema Symbolism 2. I break down it, on a much, on all the esoteric level, on all the symbolism, on the symbolism of, the two main houses, Slytherin and Gryffindor, if you're interested in that. So yeah, any questions you have, we could continue to talk about it, move on to another movie. You're a great host, Solaris. So however you want to proceed.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I have all kinds of questions. You know that, but yeah, I do like that film, and I think that there are a lot of Harry Potter buffs out there. So yeah, I encourage them to purchase the book because they're going to really get into that part. And it is interesting because when they set the stage for this, whether it's symbolism, conscious or subconscious, I think that the success of the film is based on that, Robert. I think that a lot of these films that have just taken off are because of this.
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, when you get into the monomyth, I mean, it is really uncanny how these elements and these stories, I mean, repeat themselves. I mean, you will find all this, when it comes the Joseph Campbell monomyth. If the person's listening and doesn't know, it's these components and elements that are sort of automatically worked in to these stories where you have this hero savior figure going on this adventure, and certain things happen to him, and and there's this resolution with them. I mean, the typical, I'm just condensing a ton of information here, is it's usually a no-name person who is plucked from a boring life and is placed on this grand adventure to defeat some dark overlord. Some dark figure who's trying to either take over the universe, take over the galaxy, take over Middle Earth, take over the wizarding world. I mean, this dark evil figure is Darth Vader, the Emperor in Star Wars. It's Sauron in Lord of the Rings. Of course, it's Lord Voldemort in the Harry Potter stories. So you have this going on, and when you're keen to it, you will see these elements and these components turn up in all these Hollywood blockbusters. I mean, you'll find it in the Harry Potter stories, you'll find it in Star Wars, The Matrix, another string of movies I took on was the C.S. Lewis material, The Chronicle of Narnia. They have it. I mean, they have all this stuff, all these components. So, I tend to agree with you that you will find this in all these Hollywood blockbusters, intentional or unintentional. I agree with you, Solaris. It's in there, and it's really critical to understanding movie symbolism.
Mm-hmm, very much so. And I'm really excited I want to read your new book, A Pact with the Devil. So do you have any idea when that's going to be done?
Well, yeah, this is something that I'm writing right now.
Okay.
My plan is, it's not done. I'd say I'm probably about 55, maybe 60% through it. I'll just tell the story real quick. What happened was this came to me in a dream actually 4 years ago. It was April of 2013. And if you go back in time, in April 2013, I was actually writing the first Cinema Symbolism. But I was very taken with this story, and like I said, I thought enough of it to write it down. And at that point, I started writing Cinema Symbolism. I was still writing that, but I started working on this on the side, outlining it, writing some of the early chapters. I mean, this was, of course, all rough drafts, but writing it nevertheless. Then I finally, you fast forward, I continued to write this. Cinema Symbolism, the first movie book, kind of was completed in the fall of 13. And that went through its editorial, and creative process with the book cover, and that was finally released in the summer of 14. When I got done writing Cinema Symbolism, I immediately started writing Cinema Symbolism 2, but then I was also writing A Pact with the Devil on the side. And I reached a point with these two books where I was writing them simultaneously, and this happened around January of 2015, so a little over a year ago. 2016, about a little over a year ago, where I was writing both of them, but I couldn't do it anymore. It was too hard to keep track of the stories. It was too hard when I was doing the movie book. It was too hard. It was just too hard to keep track of two books at once. So I put Pact with the Devil on the back shelf, and I finished Cinema Symbolism 2. And like I said, I don't want to, I'll talk about it, but for various reasons, back in August of last year, I ended my relationship with the company that I was using to publish my book. So this sort of delayed everything by around 4 to 6 months. And anyway, Cinema Symbolism 2 was completed and was released on April 4th. And now I'm just concentrating solely on writing, finishing off this first work of fiction. I've actually started out writing, like you said at the top of the hour, the Freemasonry and the Path to Babylon book. I've also started outlining Cinema Symbolism 3, but I promised myself. Yeah, I'm not going to work on those at all until A Pact with the Devil comes out. So yeah, I mean, this is a first work of fiction. It came to me in a dream. I researched to see if any other authors experienced anything like this, and sure enough, I discovered that Robert Louis Stevenson dreamt Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Mary Shelley dreamt Frankenstein, and H.P. Lovecraft dreamt a lot of the mythology surrounding the Necronomicon. So I figure, okay, at the worst, I'm in good company there. So yeah, this is just a work of fiction. It involves, it takes place in modern day England. It involves witches' coven. It involves conspiracy. We've got the Freemasons. We've got the Illuminati. It has some comedy in it. It has some erotica in it. It has sorcery in it. It has demonism in it. I'm real happy with the way it's turning out. I enjoy writing it. And like I said, this is probably, to be brutally honest with you, I mean, I'm going to try to get it. I mean, I just know, having published 3 books already, that, you know, when even once you get a book done, you know, you have to put it through an editing phase and this and that, and you know, it just does. You just don't snap your finger and release it the minute you get done it. So I mean, I'm probably looking at probably 6 to 9 months away from this coming out is what my time. I'm going to do everything I can to try to get it out before Christmas of this year, but you know, I just don't know if that's going to be feasible. But certainly this, you know, it should be out in a year. I mean, it should be out within, no question, a year. Like I said, I'm writing it right now. I'm probably around 55-60% done. I was actually working on it today a little bit. So yeah, I'm real happy with the way it's coming out. And, you know, this is my number one priority right now, is getting this done and getting it out. I'm not working on any other book. I'm not doing another book on the side. If I'm watching a movie and I see something, I'll make notes on it and I might throw it in an outline. But this is the only book right now I'm writing in earnest. And once this comes out, then I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do. It's either going to be Symbolism 3 or this Freemasonry and the Path to Babylon book. That's still up in the air.
Nice. I'll tell you what, I'm so excited to read all of these. I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. And yeah, I'll be looking for that. And it still reminds me of a screenplay. I think I told you that on Hyperspace when I was touching base with you. But it just, the Pact with the Devil, I bet you anything that would make an excellent film. It just sounds like a film.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you know, I can't obviously see, you know, I mean, foresee what's going to happen with, you know, any sort of film or anything. But it will definitely be out in book form. I can tell you that.
Nice.
In the print and ebook. And like I said, it's probably, you know, for me actually writing it, I mean, it's probably, you know, 3 to 4, maybe 5 months away to me being completing it, maybe shorter, depending. But as for actually getting the book out, you know, that's probably more like 6 to 9 months. Within a year, I would think, no late. I mean, I would think by this time in 2018, this book would be out. So no question.
Excellent.
Yeah,
we'll be looking for it. That's for darn sure. You'll be back on the show talking about it as well. You know, I'm really excited also with the Freemasonry and the Path to Babylon. Can you give us a little teaser on that, what that entails?
Yeah, this is just going back to Royal Arch of Enoch, which was my first book on Freemasonry. This is just some more information that kind of fills in some of the gaps with Path to Babylon. The book right now, it reads more like a series of essays. So I'm going to have to work on that. I've tinkered it. I have written on it. I mean, it's coming along, but like I said, I'm not writing it right now until this Pact with the Devil book comes out. And like I said, at that point, it's going to either be Symbolism 3 or Freemasonry and the Path to Babylon. The reason that it's called that is this has to do with the whole notion of this whole parallel between the construction of the United States of Babylon, the United States of America, and this Babylonian temple known as the Temple of Zorobabel, which literally means the path to Babylon, coming out of the high degrees of Freemasonry. And this sort of, if you're familiar with the Royal Arch of Enoch, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. This high degree focuses on the Royal Arch of Enoch rituals, focuses on the building of the Second Temple, the Temple of Zorobabel, like I said, which literally means the path to Babylon, or depending on how you translate it, the heart of Babylon, or even the road to Babylon. But there is a parallel between this Masonic ritual coming into fruition and the construction of the United States, the formation of the United States. And this is something, like I said, if you're familiar with the Royal Arch of Enoch book, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Because as I've said in other podcasts, other radio shows, the Royal Arch of Enoch book, this high degree ritual titled the Royal Arch of Enoch, is really sort of the high degree ritual that the founders are modeling the United States after. It's so much of the symbolism and philosophy coming out of this ritual is what was used to formulate the United States of America. So this is sort of like a continuation of that. I would guess that it's more information about how this high degree ritual is being used to formulate the United States of America, craft it, inform it, So that's what that book's about. Like I said, right now it reads more like a string of essays more than anything. But I'm working on it. And I will definitely, I mean, the truth of the matter is that that book, depending on what I do next after Pact with the Devil comes out, even if I do it next and don't do Symbolism 3, Freemasonry and the Path of Babylon is easily two to 3 years away, at least two. So
I'll be looking forward to that. That's for darn sure. I have a question for you about the Masons. Obviously connected to builders, but what comes to mind is also the fact that it's so esoteric and mysticism. To me, it seems like it's beyond the physical concept of building a structure, but actually about intent and manifesting energies. In other words, they think it, therefore it is. If they decide that they vibrate at a certain frequency enough to a point where they can change reality around them, these constructs come forward. Does that ring a bell to you at all?
I to an extent. I would definitely say it's the whole idea. One of the sort of teachings of Freemasonry is sort of, that your mind is a temple, and you're supposed to perfect it and craft it and study and do research to perfect your own inner self, basically. So there is some notion of that, no question. I mean, you will always hear the term if you're a Freemason. I mean, I'm not giving anything away. You probably find this online, but the whole idea is, you will find this in the catechism work is, I joined Masonry to quote unquote improve myself through Freemasonry, So you get into this whole idea. I mean, I definitely don't disagree with this, is that you're building your own inner temple almost. It's not only, you get into the sacred architecture quite literally of buildings and architecture and cityscapes and city templates. But the whole idea is that you're also building an inner temple. And that is your mind, and that is yourself, and that is to, improve yourself through Freemasonry. And of course, the whole idea with this is so that you just, quite simply put, be a better person. And I don't want to put words in people's mouths, because I really do believe in my heart of hearts that this improvement is really an individual thing. I don't believe that this could be applied, unilaterally across the board. Whatever this is really more so a unilateral thing. Not unilateral, individual thing. It really can take many forms. It's up to the individual. So, yeah, absolutely. That I definitely believe within Freemasonry there is this whole notion of a teaching. That it's teaching you to try to be a better person, construct this inner temple, and whatever that is, it is for you and you alone. Whether it be for me, writing books or, doing research or being a better person in the community, whatever it is, it's to, improve yourself through Freemasonry. So I definitely think that is a construct that is being taught within, within Masonry. I wouldn't dispute that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. And I've touched on this before with you that I come from a family of Masons, also on the Scottish Rite on my mother's side. And they were always like saints. I mean, these were the most wonderfully enlightened, loving people I've ever encountered. And my question to you is, it's interesting because there's so much, we touched on a little bit about the superstition with Masons, which I don't really understand. And let me ask you something. Do the Masons believe in the devil? I mean, what is their impression of things like that?
Right. I mean, well, to join Masonry, I mean, I guess you kind of have to be able to join Freemasonry, you have to believe in a supreme being, a God figure. So I suppose if you believe in a God figure, you should believe in a devil figure, although it's not required. No one asked you that, and no one asked you the type of God that you believe in. No one really. If you join Masonry, no one will ask you, are you a Christian, or are you a Jew, or are you a Muslim? Are you, a Hindu? They just ask you point blank, do you believe in a supreme being? That's the question that's usually asked. Do you believe in a God? If atheists aren't allowed to join. Now, of course, you can trick your way in if you are an atheist and lie. But my kind of response to that is you wouldn't want to join anyway. I mean, if you're an atheist, that's like saying, why would you want to go? That's like saying, well, I'll go to a church service on Sunday morning. And it's probably the last place you would find an atheist. So if you're an atheist, Masonry probably wouldn't appeal to you anyway. So you have to believe in God. You have to believe in a supreme being. How you get to him is up to the individual Mason. There is no religious dogma per se in Masonry. Now, granted, there is elements of Christianity and Judaism and even Islam in Masonry. I mean, the rituals revolve around the construction of Solomon's temple. King Solomon turns up. So to say it's not sort of Judeo-Christian would kind of be misleading. You will also find elements of mystical Islam in Masonry, which is known as Sufism. And of course, you'll find also elements of Gnosticism, things like that. So, as far as believing in the devil, I suppose if you believe in a supreme being, you kind of almost have to default believe in a devil figure, although you would never really be asked that. They just ask you if you believe in a supreme being.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, it's universal, if you ask me. That's what it sounds like. It's just like a universal thing. And also,
that's a good word to describe it. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
absolutely.
And the thing is, when I look at these different deities, so to speak, I see like the Isis, for example, the goddess associated. I think we touched on a little bit how it correlates to Mother Mary or the Divine Mother. These all kind of parallel each other in frequency. So you have to ask yourself, aren't they all just kind of a blend in an energy and a frequency?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one way of certainly putting it. I probably would not use. I don't know if I'd use the term frequency, but you could use that. I view it more as. I mean, it's not an unfair term. I'm not saying it isn't. It's more, to me, I would call it like a comparative study. So yeah, I mean, it's probably the similar word. I mean, clearly in Masonry with the Blue Lodge ritual, I mean, you will have the whole idea of, the death and resurrection story, whether it be Osiris or Jesus, turning up. I mean, you will definitely draw parallels with that. No question about it. I mean, you have reference to the sacred feminine in the third degree ritual. The whole idea of the brother being brought back to life on the 5 points of fellowship. The 5 points, of course, is a reference to the pentagram. In Masonry, the pentagram is what's known as the blazing star. If you're familiar with the works of Albert Pike, Pike will tell you the blazing star is the Egyptian dog star Sirius, which was, of course, sacred to the Virgin Mother Isis. Of course, Isis is the Virgin Mary in Christianity, just renamed. So, yeah, I mean, you will definitely draw on these, parallel frequencies, these comparative religious studies. No question about it. Masonry continues that tradition. If you're interested in what I'm talking about, my goodness gracious, definitely check out any one of my books, because you will find this all over the place once you have the trained eye to look for it. I mean, I get into this whole thing with the resurrection ritual in Freemasonry and in the Royal Arch of Enoch. I mean, and you will find this in film all over the place. I mean, this whole idea, of the Christ figure, the Christ archetype, the solar savior. I mean, this is something we were talking about at the beginning of the show with Harry Potter. I mean, Luke Skywalker is another one of these. Neo in the Matrix movies, Frodo Baggins in the Lord of the Rings. So yeah, I mean, this is an archetypal figure that is prevalent in modern day society.
It makes an awful lot of sense to me. Yeah, like I said, it's nice to have a Mason writing books about this information. I'm not sure how many Masons are out there that actually have work now on this timeline, but I know you're one of the major people out there that's doing this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there are other Masonic authors. Certainly, I'm not the only one. I like to think my books are unique. I believe that. I mean, in all three of my books, and whether it be Royal Arch of Enoch, Cinema Symbolism, Cinema Symbolism 2, I've said this on other shows. I've probably said it on some of the times I've been on your show, and whether it be this one or the other one in the past, Hyperspace, saying that, I believe that in my books you will find material that you will never find anywhere else. I stand by that. You will not find some. I mean, now, people may read the book and then do a little video about it or something that I can't do anything about. But certainly, I mean, I know, because I know that you will not find some of this material on other sites in other books. I mean, the Royal Arch of Enoch was the first book that presented the whole idea that this high degree ritual, the Royal Arch, was containing components of this, of the Book of Enoch prior to its discovery in the West. The movie books. There was information in there that I know you will not find anywhere else. Because I know when I was researching it, when I was writing it, I know I wasn't finding this anywhere else, whether it be these little numerological references or archetypal imagery or occult symbols hidden in the background, or parallels with music to reinforce a subconscious image or something like that. I know that with my books, I'm certainly not the only Freemason out there right now currently writing about Masonry, but I do stand by, that there is information that you will find in my books that you will not find anywhere else, be it Royal Arch of Enoch, Cinema Symbolism, or Cinema Symbolism 2.
Yeah, I think some people don't know what to look for. That's the thing. They're not Masons or they haven't been through these inner circles, so they really probably don't realize what they're looking for. A lot of these people that you were mentioning, just out there, we're putting videos out and speculating about a lot of different things. But you actually do put the pieces of the puzzle together, which I can certainly appreciate. And I was going to ask you, are you doing any live book signings anywhere or speaking, public speaking?
No, not right now.
Okay.
Right now, if you go to my website, the best thing to do is check my events and appearance page. I am booked. I am doing websites. I'm doing podcasts and radio shows right now. I have a couple standing offers on lectures right now. I haven't decided on those right now. That's still a little up in the air. I have done book signings in the past. Right now, I don't have any scheduled. Right now, I'm really concentrating on getting back on the radio, getting back into podcasting. I have 4 live shows booked for May and 1 pre-record show booked for May. So I have 5 shows coming out in May. I will start booking June around the first, second week of May. That's really what I'm concentrating on right now, is just doing more radio, more podcasting. And promoting Cinema Symbolism too. That's really my number one goal right now. I mentioned this the last time I was on your other show, and I'll just say it for the listeners. I mean, I was on radio hiatus pretty much from August of last year, from 2016 all the way around to March of this year. That was intentionally done by me. I had been doing radio shows pretty consistently, at least 3 to 4 shows a month, starting in January of 2013. This went all the way around for 3.5 years till August of 2016. I needed a break, but there was something also going on where I mentioned this to you the last time, where I was ending my business relationship with the company that I was using, which meant that I had to republish Royal Arch of Enoch and Cinema Symbolism through my own publishing house, which I eventually did. But I didn't want to do radio. I mean, there was a time in November through the end of December where the books weren't available at all. There were no ebooks available. There were no print editions. I had ordered the company that was doing this to remove everything, which they eventually did. So the Royal Arch of Enoch book didn't start turning up back online until the end of December. And again, the ebook of that wasn't released till like a month and a half later. Then I relaunched Cinema Symbolism, and again, the ebook came a little later on. So I was basically off radio for 8 months, from August all the way around to March. And your first show, when I was on a month ago, that was one of the first early shows I had done getting back on the radio. So yeah, right now I'm just really concentrating on doing more radio, doing more podcasting. Please visit my website, robertwsullivan.com. Go to the events and appearance page. That is constantly being updated for all my web shows, my podcasts, my radio shows. Right now, I do not have any scheduled book signings or lectures, although that may change in the near future.
Okay, fantastic. And also, the best way to purchase your book would be through the website, right?
Right. I do not distribute the book myself. I do not sell the book here. I would have to turn, a room here into a like a postal room or something. The books are sold online through online distributors, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. These all my books are Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, eBook Mall. I'm trying to think of some of the other distributors. Hang on, I'll pull it up right now. Actually, let me actually just pull this up, and I can tell you. I mean, it's if you're interested in the print editions. I mean, I would say the big 3 sites are Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Books A Million. And it's, of course, the Royal Arch of Enoch and Cinema Symbolism. The ebooks are out on that. You can get the Kindle. You can get the Nook. Other sites that sell it are eBook Mall, Intera, Bookshout, Feed Books. Cinema Symbolism 2 right now is only the print edition is out. The ebooks are still about 2 to 3 weeks away. So for Cinema Symbolism 2, it's on Amazon, it's on Barnes & Noble, it's on Books A Million. Again, the easiest way to do this is just go to my website, Robert W. Sullivan. My name is Robert W. Sullivan IV. So it's Robert W. Sullivan IV, the letter I, the letter V.com. The number 4, I think, was taken when I was doing this. So just go there. There's a link there that says Buy Robert's Books. Click on it, and it's very easy to navigate. I mean, you just go to Amazon.com and type in the title. They'll come up. And again, my publishing house is Deadwood Publishing. Those are the new editions. You want to purchase the Cinema book and Royal Arch of Enoch. These are revised second editions. fixing some minor corrections, minor mistakes that were going on in the earlier editions. So you want to get the second editions; they are out now, and you get the ebooks of those. Symbolism 2, again, Deadwood Publishing, and only the print edition of that is out right now. The Kindle, the Nook, that's still about 2 to 3 weeks away. So yeah, really, Solaris, the easiest way just go to my website. I mean, there are tons of links there. Click on the Buy Robert's book link. You'll have no problem finding this. Or you can just go to Amazon, or Barnes and Noble, or Books A Million. Type in the title of the book. Believe me, you'll have no problem pulling it up. My website is www.robertwsullivaniv.com. Links to purchase the books, links to follow me on Twitter, social media, all that good stuff. Royal Arch of Enoch is out. Cinema Symbolism is out. Cinema Symbolism 2 was just released 3.5 weeks ago. robertwsullivaniv.com to purchase all my books.
Wonderful. Excellent. We have that posted in the chat right now. So that's perfect here. And I have a question for you about Gnosticism. For a lot of people who don't understand what that is, how would you define Gnosticism or being Gnostic? And also, how does it tie into any of the films that you've decoded?
Oh, yeah, my goodness. Gnostic cinema is probably one of the most popular topics right now. This is something that I really try to really get into detail with in all three of my books. The word Gnostic or gnosis, it means to know. It just means to know. And it has to do with knowledge, the gaining of wisdom, the gaining of esoteric wisdom. And if you are interested in Gnostic thought, I mean, you will find Gnosticism in cinema all over the place. Usually, Gnosticism, there are three fountainheads of Gnostic thought, three philosophers, Mani, Valentinus, and Basilides. And the two biggies out of that, all three are very important. But Mani's thought is what is basically best described as Zoroastrian dualism, which is there's this constant battle in the world, in the universe, between light and dark, good and evil, wisdom and ignorance. And this is, of course, good versus evil. And of course, good versus evil, light versus dark, I mean, is a seminal theme in, how many movies do you want to know? I mean, it's, Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader, Jesus versus the devil, Harry Potter versus Lord Voldemort. And then you get into the works of Valentinus, and he taught that basically the best knowledge and the way to obtain this knowledge was through spiritual exercises, and that materialism and that the material world was by and large evil. And the materialism was bad and spiritualism was wise. So the whole idea was this: you were supposed to shrug off the material world in search of spiritual gnosis. So where do we find this in film? I mean, this is The Matrix. This is the shedding of the false reality for spiritual wisdom, for truth of the real world, which of course was, this whole idea was you were living in poverty, but you were enlightened. So this is a lot of Gnostic thought going on inside the Matrix. And then you have the whole idea of that the crafter of this material world is this lesser god called the Demiurge. And he is the fashioner of this false reality, this materialistic reality. I mean, we'll find this in cinema. I mean, this is Christoph in The Truman Show, the creator of the phony world, Sea Haven. I mean, you got the guy Truman, who wants to be just that, the true man. Even his name says it. It's the true man who wants the real world, wants the spiritual wisdom, wants out of the garbage, material, phony world, and wants the spiritual enlightenment. So, Gnosticism is very critical. I mean, it's the same thing within Freemasonry. It's the whole idea is you're going through this symbolic death. You're shredding off the old self. You're being reborn into this Gnostic sort of enlightened figure where you're being instructed within Freemasonry to improve yourself through Masonry, to study, to become a wiser person, to try to attain a form of spiritual enlightenment. So, Gnosticism, and of course, I've talked to you about this before, Solaris. Then you get into the works of people like Philip K. Dick. You get into the works of, Total Recall, The Phony Reality, What's the Dream, What's the Reality, movies such as Blade Runner, where you have the whole idea of Kabbalism with golem making, of course, Kabbalah parallels Gnosticism with the Nexus Sixes. And of course, they're more spiritual than their human counterparts. So, Gnosticism, the thoughts of Mani, the teachings of Valentinus. Then you get into Basilides, his cosmology is a train wreck. He takes Valentinus to really another level where he says, basically anything you do in this world is you're basically being an agent of the demiurge. So Basilides basically says you have to do nothing in this world. Basically sit in a darkened corner with your eyes closed and meditate all day is the only way you'll obtain spiritual gnosis, shed off the demiurge, and obtain the spiritual form of gnosis. Somehow obtain or be able to reach the spiritual Godhead. In Kabbalah they call this Ein Sof. In Gnosticism, it's generally known as the monad. You want to have nothing to do with the material world, nothing to do with the demiurge. You want to shrug all this off, in order to obtain the spiritual gnosis. Gnosticism turns up all over the place in popular culture right now. It's in movies all over the place. Gnosticism is a main theme in both cinema books, and I talk about it in Royal Arch of Enoch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once again, that's an awesome book as well. And what about Captain America? What would you say that one is in category?
Oh, well, unfortunately, Solaris, I've never seen it.
You haven't? Okay.
No, I haven't seen Captain America. I haven't seen any of the Captain America movies, and okay. I'm way out to date on these Marvel movies that are coming out, like Iron Man, and I think they're doing, whatever it is. I've lost track of the Marvel universe. So I'm gonna have to pass on that. I would not dare take on a movie that I haven't seen, and I have not seen the Captain America movie, so I couldn't speak on it, unfortunately.
Okay, you might want to check it out down the road. I always give you films to look at when you have time. I know you're a busy man, but also when you decide to work on the sequel, you might want to look into those and see if you see anything in there.
Yeah, absolutely. This is nothing new. People are throwing movies at me all the time. I have a list of movies that I want to watch. And like I said, I've begun outlining Symbolism 3. Certainly superhero movies, you're dealing with a lot of archetypal imagery. I definitely delve into more. I'm more of to be brutally honest with you, Solaris, I'm more of a DC Universe guy. I like Batman, I like Superman more than I do the Marvel stuff.
Good. I like Batman.
That's great. So I delve into Batman and Superman much more in the cinema books. I'm not saying the Marvel stuff is bad. I do not. I remember. I think I saw the first Iron Man movie years ago. And I liked it. I saw some of the early Spider-Man movies. I like those as well. But that's been so long ago. But I'm definitely more of a fan of the DC universe and Batman and Superman than I am of Marvel universe. But yes, I'll definitely have to check out Captain America and some of the. Someone asked me about the X-Men movie, and I think I saw one of them. That's what I'm talking about. I saw one of them years ago, and I just can't remember it. But again, anytime you're dealing with superheroes, you're dealing with an archetype, in one way or another, or at least components of it. So, usually when you're dealing with the superhero, be it Batman or Superman or whatever, Spider-Man, you're dealing with an archetype of some sort or another.
Right, that makes sense. Well, yeah, I think a lot of those films also, they have so much with special effects that it kind of takes away from the symbolism to some degree.
Yeah, probably to an extent. And a lot of these characters have been reinvented over the years, and they put out, they had Tim Burton doing the Batman movies, and then they turned it over to Chris Nolan. I thought those were really good. But generally, again, when you're dealing with when you're dealing with the superhero type film, it's generally, I'm speaking with broad strokes right now, painting with broad strokes, it's usually archetypal imagery. Although, you get I've yet to see the one that they made, Batman versus Superman. I've yet to see that one, but I saw Man of Steel. And the whole Superman character is a Christ archetype. It's the only begotten Son sent to earth to save mankind from his sins, to teach mankind how to be, to use superpowers to save mankind from itself. And of course, anytime you're dealing with a Christ allegory, you're dealing with solar references. Well, if you watch Man of Steel, you will find the solar references all over the place. Superman is constantly flying around cruciform in front of the sun. The Russell Crowe Jor-El character tells him to become one with the sun. Superman, believe it or not, in Man of Steel is 33 years old. Boy, I wonder what that's a reference to. And then I haven't seen Batman versus Superman, but then you had the whole idea. I just saw some previews of it, and you could completely see that they were drawing on the whole idea of Enochian demons. that Superman, is, what does Lex Luthor say? That the devils don't come from hell; they come from the heavens above. I mean, that's clearly a reference to an Enochian demon, and the Book of Enoch. So yeah, with Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, you were definitely dealing with some religious symbolism going on in there. But I haven't seen Captain America, and I'll add it to my must-see list for perhaps Cinema Symbolism 3.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I remember the series Smallville. I don't know if you remember that that was kind of good.
Yeah, and they did the same thing with that. They had him crucified as the Scarecrow.
Right. Yeah, that's what came to mind when you were mentioning that. So,
yeah, absolutely.
That's very true.
Yeah, I mean the whole Superman motif is the Christ story. And even the villain, Lex Luthor, Lucifer, doing battle with the dark evil lord. So yeah, I mean, you have you will find this. I mean, even the one Superman movie, the one with Christopher Reeves, the first one. I mean, he brings Martin Kidder back to life. I mean, he resurrects the dead for God's sakes.
Right, exactly. And we're going to head for a break, Robert. You're listening to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Solaris Blue, and my excellent guest tonight is Robert Sullivan IV. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.